Welcome back to the channel, folks. We are out on an absolutely beautiful day for fishing at one of my favourite venues, Holly Farm. It's a classic commercial fishery. We've got an island probably 20 metres away, and we've come for a bit of method feeder fishing. Inline method feeder fishing is the name of the game for today, and there's a reason for that I'll talk about a little bit later. But what we're going to do is just have a little common there. So we're just going to have a session, a short session, chucking this little inline method feeder up against that far bank. And you guys are going to come on the journey with me, because that is literally my first fish of the day, and I think we're going to catch a few more. So to start with, let's talk about the setup. So pretty standard stuff really. This is the end tackle. We've got a size 16 barbless hook there. We've got 0.14 hook length. We've got 3 inches of that. It's an inline feeder. You can use elasticated here, but again, I'm using inline for a good reason. And we've got a 30 gram little Preston method feeder there. Main line is 0.23. We've got a beautiful little Okuma reel on the rod. That's a Seymour HD. That's loaded with 0.23, and then it's upside down, but I'm sure you can read it still. This is a Free Spirit 10-foot feeder light. Beautiful rod for this sort of fishing. I'm expecting that we're going to catch carp, probably similar size to that one, 2-3 pounds, and then hopefully a load of F1s in between. It should be pretty good for bites today. Let's show you what I'm doing. So I've got my little mould. I'm putting just a scattering of ground bait, a few pellets in there. It's a mix. Let me show you the mix. So it's a mix of probably 60-70% ground bait and the rest soaked up micro pellets. The ground bait is the new swim stim feeder from Dynamite. Beautiful ground bait. Just got a little bit more fish meal in than the original green swim stim, so hopefully a little bit better for when the water warms up. Putting bait in my mould, put it together. There we go, spot on. I'm going to give it a little bit of a squeeze, and we'll chuck it out. Now that was, like I say, first chuck, and we've had a fish, so we've got a 100% record at the minute. Let's see if we can carry that on. So let's try and get it across that far side. It's going nice. Sink the line. Oh, didn't take long, did it? I don't think it's a big fish. Let's talk about the reason why we're here today fishing in this style. Yesterday I fished a match at Lindome Lakes. Oh, it's a tiny F1. I fished a match at Lindome Lakes yesterday. It was the first round of the On the Flyer TV Feeder UK Champs, and 2 lakes were being used, Bonsai Lake and also Laurels Lake. I was really hoping for a draw on Bonsai Lake, because although I've got limited experience at Lindome, I've fished Bonsai a few times, so sort of have a bit of an idea of what to expect. As it was, I drew Laurels Lake, and we actually filmed the day for a live match, a full hour and 20 long video that will be available on the Edge membership channel that Lee Kerry and I run. So if you're into that sort of thing, well worth a watch, I think, because there's a lot of twists and turns throughout the day. But my result was not the greatest by a long way. We hung up there. got to get tight, but maybe not that tight. But my result was not the greatest yesterday, so what I wanted to do is, instead of moping about it, I want to get out and catch a few fish and sort of maybe see where I've gone wrong, and also try and assure myself that I was probably not too far from the right track. Like I say, I drew Laurel's Lake, which is an open water lake. There's a few more carp in Laurel's compared to Bonsai Lake, and as it was, I probably should have just fished a bigger feeder, sat there and hoped for some bigger carp. But I was a little bit too busy, if I'm honest. That's not gonna, wow. Because obviously I've got Bonsai Lake in my mind, and the fishing on Bonsai is very similar to this style of fishing. I was maybe a little bit too busy. Let's get it right. I drew what I'm going to say is not a great peg on the day, but we just got it wrong. So come back to a very, very similar venue. This is as similar as I can think of to Bonsai Lake, because I feel that with another round at Lindome in the UK Feeder Champs, if I draw Laurel's Lake, I've got a bit of an idea of what we need to do. If I draw Bonsai Lake, I'd like to have had a little bit of a practice doing that style of fishing, because we need to have any chance of doing any good in that series now. We need 3 section wins in the remaining 3 rounds, because our first round result was so poor. So that's why we're here today, and that's why we're fishing inline feeders and the sort of style of fishing that we'd use at Lindome, because it's inline feeders only. I'm trying to replicate that as much as possible. And hopefully next time we visit Lindome we'll have a bit of a head start. You can see the fishing here is absolutely brilliant. Just felt the hook pointed bird a little bit there, so I've changed the hook. Again, we'll show you what we're doing. So it's a single maggot. It's amazing how a single maggot catches so many fish. Obviously mini boilies and wowsers and things like that have got their place, but sometimes you just can't go wrong with a single maggot, especially when you're using a lot of ground bait. And obviously this is quite a ground bait heavy mix. Before I cast out, I'm just going to show you what I like to do with my ground bait and how it all sits on my side tray, because I see a lot of people, they put all their eggs in one basket and they make a mix, and that's their mix for the day, and it might not be right. So I've got a working tub here, and this tub, it hasn't got all of my bait in, it's just got enough bait in there for a few chucks. Might be an hour's fishing, it might be half hour's fishing, but it's not all of my bait. I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. Then in my EVA tub I've got pellets, because who knows, these fish might just want all pellets around the feeder, and I've got that option there. And behind me I've got my bucket of ground bait, and in this working tub I can manipulate that. So I put a bit more ground bait in all the time, and I can change things all the time, rather than having one mix and that is for the whole day. I can change things all the time. I think it's a really good thing to do. A lot of top anglers do that. I could put a little bit more ground bait in there. I just feel that these fish do want a little bit of ground bait. On these little tiny feeders as well with maggots, ground bait is a brilliant bait. A little bit of a squeeze, everything's buried in there. I mean, I think I want that hook bait to be exposed almost straight away, so there's an argument for saying that you could literally lightly squeeze that on just enough to get it there and almost explodes as it hits the water surface because the bites are coming so fast. But we'll see how we go. The name of the game is obviously to be casting reasonably accurate. That cast was probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 inch short and a little bit to the right, but there's that many fish there. I mean, I'm getting line bites all the time. What I'll probably do is, because we're getting so many indications, they're obviously attacking that feeder straight away. I want everything exposed as fast as possible, so we'll have a go in a second, just really lightly squeezing everything on and see where we go from there, because this is going to be a little bit of a learning session for me today. I'm going to leave that. It's a bit of a rubbish cast that was, if I'm honest. So we've had quite a few mixed results in our travels, all over the place actually. We've had our world feeder champs over in Spain. I'm going to say that could have gone a lot better. I had a really poor result on the match day. Caught a lot of fish during the week, but a really poor result on the match day. Just didn't get to grips with the tactics at all on the match day, so felt that we could have done a lot better. As a team, we finished in 5th place, which we always like to go and try and win the event. There's definitely loads of fish there, and 5th place isn't what we wanted, so we've had that to contend with. And then we've had a couple of dodgy results on other matches as well. Cast this in again. Terrible cast that last one. Oh, you can't get quicker than that, can you? It's not all been dodgy though, because we've had a couple of decent results as well on different matches. So first up was our Langold final. We qualified for the Guru Feeder Cup at Langold Lakes, where it was all bream and skimmer fishing. Water was a lot colder, but we managed to come 3rd in that, which is obviously brilliant when there's a lot of money up for grabs. We've actually won £1,000 for coming 3rd. Jeff Hilly won the match. He won £5,000, so there's plenty of money to be made in the fishing, this feeder fishing game, if you get lucky. Have a little comment. Oh, it was so fast, wasn't it? Name of the game on that day was chuck a little method feeder. Even though we were bream fishing in open water and the fishing was tough, Langold Lake really responded to method feeder work, and I think probably the top 5 anglers all used a method feeder at some point during the day to catch some fish, so that's becoming a really important weapon. Again, I used a few micros and just a bit of ground bait that day. Little tiny mini boiler, little tiny yellow wowser was the name of the game. And also we've had a bit of good fortune in that we've qualified for the Feeder Masters final. Now the Feeder Masters final is something that I chase it every year. I always want to qualify for the Feeder Masters final. It's held at Tamar Lakes. It's a great venue. It's a great trip away as well. It's a brilliant event. There's obviously a lot of money. Wow, these fish are attacking that as soon as it's hitting the water surface. Is that one on? Wow, that's incredible. And to qualify for the feeder master final, you have to win a zone in one of the qualifiers. There's 3 zones, there's 60 peg events, 3 zones in each qualifier. And fortunately, on my first qualifier of the year, at a venue that I absolutely love, Boston, I managed to finish second in the match. I had £180. Once again, all on a method or hybrid feeder. I had £180, second in the match, managed to win the zone, win my 20 peg zone though, to qualify for the final. So obviously, feeder masters, like I say, it's something that I chase every year. And the qualifiers are great, you know, you're travelling up and down the country fishing great venues, but if I'm honest, I love to qualify early because it means you're not having to worry about it. It's ridiculous how fast these fish are attacking this feeder. I used to fish here all the time, and this was the name of the game. And I'm talking 15 years ago, that sort of time period, and this was the way to catch these fish then, even before there was any F1s in here. Little tiny method feeder, single maggot, mainly ground bait. So it's not that I'm not confident of doing it, I just wanted to have a quick go at getting out and doing it again. Feeders come up a little bit in the reed, but I think it'll still go round, if I'm honest. Oh, it's incredible. You can see, because we're using barbless hooks, inline feeders are notorious for bouncing the hook out of fish, and that means you've got to use a nice soft rod. I've got this 10-foot feeder light, which is a beautiful soft rod, and also I've got a really soft quiver tip in it. I've got the 1/2 ounce glass quiver tip in it, and that's not to read the bites, because a lot of the time your bites are just towing the rod around. It's to get an indication of what's happening around that feeder, so you can see all the little flickers of those fish attacking that feeder. I mean, and there is a lot of fish attacking that feeder. It's amazing that a bit of warm weather and the fishing comes alive. So that soft tip shows me how many fish are attacking that feeder, how many fish are in the swim. It also helps keep that feeder in place. I'm using a 30-gram feeder for good reason, because I want to keep the feeder in place over there. I don't want it to be moving around, and a softer tip helps with that, because when a fish moves and hits the line, he's actually going to bend the tip round a little bit further, rather than dislodge the feeder. So the tip will move at this end rather than the feeder being dislodged at the other end. So that 1/2 ounce tip has got a couple of purposes. Ground bait is a little bit on the dry side. We could probably do with adding a little bit of water to that. I've got a tub of water on my side tray. So easy with sort of pellet based ground baits. Once they've seen a little bit of water, it's so easy to add a little bit of water to the mix and alter the consistency. So we've finally managed to sink the line, take our time, flick a bit of water in there and just give it a whiz round. You don't need a lot, it's just enough to make sure every particle sinks nicely and it grips the feeder nicely. we're not careful, when you're chucking over there and it's in the water for a long time, I was just going to say, you can run the risk of the feeder moving or the hook bait moving around the swim, and you can pick up a little bit of weed or something on the hook instead of the hook being clean. I always feel early in the season, sort of springtime, early summer, the fish haven't been feeding really aggressively over there all year, so the bottom could have a little bit of weed on it still before the fish really get over there and start kicking it around and pushing it into deeper water where it forms the silt. So I don't want my feeder to be in the swim for too long really. I don't want it bouncing around with all those line bites. I want it to go in and fish almost straight away. Always find that when you are waiting for bites, getting your line sunk beneath the surface is the way, but so with the fishing being so good, not really getting a chance to do that. So I felt that feeder just move a little bit, and that's what we didn't really want. A lot of time people feel method feeder fishing is very much chuck it out, sit on your hands. I often find on these fisheries where there's loads of fish, the busiest anglers catch the most fish. Because that feed has just moved, we're just not getting as many indications around the tip. So many fish over there though. There's proof of that fish, that hook one. And I think that's all because that feeder skipped as I was sinking the line then. You've got to keep the feeder in that original spot or it just doesn't work the same. Leave the line on the surface this time, see what happens. Yeah, bites are coming so fast. What a great way to spend the day. I don't think we're far away, you folks. Hopefully. I can carry on today, catch a load more fish, give me the confidence boost that I need, try a few more different things out. You can't moan at a bite every single chuck, can you? Until next time folks, tight lines.